Hey guys, Josh here from Sportitude Running, and today is a slightly different shoe review. We're going to be talking about the top 5 stable neutral shoes for 2021. So to give you a bit of an idea of how we come to these 5 options which sit here under your camera on my table, basically we've broken down to a couple of different categories. So that, 1, they have to be neutral of course, and 2, they have to be a cushioned shoe. However, the third sort of criteria is, are they versatile? While we are still talking about cushioned shoes, can they be used for some shorter, quicker runs? And the other key factor which comes into the fitting of the 5 shoes below me is they've got to be available in widths, because that is such an important factor when it comes to fitting a running shoe. It kind of frustrates us from time to time when we're down on the shop floor and we've got to a point where we're going to fit someone and the shoe's too narrow or it's too wide, and we have really nowhere to go with that specific shoe in front of us. So the shoes down here, 1, they're cushioned, they're stable neutral, they're versatile, and also they come in widths. So in no particular order, we're going to jump into this shoe review. But before we do, I just want to talk about what a neutral shoe or what a neutral foot type is. So I've done this in my shoe reviews gone by. Now, a supinated foot type or a high arch would sort of sit a little bit like this. So you can see here, if I lay it flat on a flat surface, there is quite a bit of space between the arch and the ground. And for that runner that comes down through their transition, a lot of the pressure will be on the lateral side of their foot. So that's what we classify as a supinated foot type. And a supinated foot type, in theory, can run in a neutral shoe. However, what we do find from time to time, probably the minority of your stable neutral category, is when you've got a foot that looks like this. So technically it sits on a flat surface and the arch is relatively close to the ground. However, when this runner comes through their gait transition, everything stays pretty centralized. So they don't have a bias towards that medial side, and obviously they don't have a bias towards that supinated side. A lot of the force and pressure goes through the mid part of the foot before the foot gets ready to engage and toe off. So while there are 2 slightly different static positions with what we classify as neutral foot types, it's more to do with the actual functionality of movement through the foot that would then justify where we would look at a stable neutral shoe. Okay guys, underneath the camera here we have got 5 shoes. Now what I'm going to do straight off the bat is talk about 2 shoes that have had a sort of say mild update from their predecessor. So I should have said this in the intro. All of the shoes before, in regards to how they fell into this category, all my top 5 selections, is taking into consideration where they were with their predecessor and where they are now. So I'll grab one here in my hand. Now this is New Balance Fresh Foam 1080 version 11. Now you're probably sitting there at home and looking at this going, well, why does it fall into this essentially top 5 category? Because there's not much change from where it was with the 10 to the 11. And that is very true. The midsole breakdown is exactly the same. It's the same stack height. We're talking 30 to 22s with an 8mm offset. That's both men's and women's. But a couple of tweaks in the upper, and they engineered this little shoe through here. So again, I need to talk about this because while change is inevitable in this industry, it's actually not something that every brand has to act on every single 12 months. It's a-okay when a brand gets something right to only ever make those micro changes. And with regards to this shoe, it was all in the upper. So a bit of a tweak with that hyper knit through the forefoot. And there was a bit of a change with the heel counter. And while this is controversial with what I'm about to say, I personally didn't think they nailed the heel counter in version 11. Version 12, which is coming out in a couple of months' time, they have executed a heel counter to perfection. So while this shoe sits in the top 5, there is a couple of imperfections with it, and mainly it's more to do with the heel counter. But again, being a neutral shoe, very light, has a little rocker element to the forefoot. Being a bit lighter than some of the others below me here, you can use it for some shorter, quicker runs and almost those tempo progressive runs when you want to feel that element of protection. 1080 version 11 has been an absolute go-to over the last 6 months. 12 months, pardon me, I should say. The other shoe that's had a minor change from one to the next is Triumph 19. So I hold in my hand here the shoe that has almost changed my interpretation of what Saucony can do in this space. Now, Triumph 17 was a bit of a miss in my opinion. 18, good improvements, but the upper wasn't quite right. But this shoe here in my hand has been an absolute Monty down here on the shop floor here at Sportitude Running. Now, the reason being is they have really dialed in the upper. They've executed the heel counter to perfection. They've put in the right amount of foam at the back. They've made it lighter from its previous version, which is great. And they have only ever so slightly tinkered the fit and feel underneath the foot, more to do with the sock liner of this shoe. It's still the same midsole. You've got your 32.5 heel and your 24.5 forefoot for a variance of 8mm. So that 8mm offset through there. Power Run PB has been a real blessing for Saucony in regards to their cushioning systems. I mean, they've had great success with a couple of their tempo shoes, but this guy here is extremely stable. A lot of runners will lean on this shoe when they want confidence underneath the foot. In terms of the scale of weight, it's very light up top. You've got a little bit more weight underneath the foot, so you get that really good grounded feel, but with an element of protection. So Triumph 19 has easily found its way into our top 5 for this year so far. The other shoe I'd like to talk about, again, has had a micro change from its previous version to the next, but however, they've had a change across all 3 components, being the outsole, the midsole, and the upper. And I'm talking none other than the Brooks Glycerin 19. Now, Brooks Glycerin has had a number of years of success. Now, when you're going back 10 years, there was a bit of discussion around, will this shoe stay, will it go? Have Brooks sort of worked on executing the finer points of what a neutral shoe should be all about? And once they landed on the Glycerin 11, now we're going back nearly 9 years now because you take into consideration that 12-month period, they really got it right. They changed quite a lot of the componentry, full ground outsole, change the cushioning system, and then from there, it's only got better every single year. Now, of course, they're going to make a change from one season to the next, which may not agree with you, the runner. However, in terms of their overall performance, they've always made those progressive moves forward with regards to their overall performance. Now, regarding this shoe here, we've got a 10mm offset, 26 in the heel, and a 16mm in the forefoot. That's the same, both men's and women's. And the new cushioning system was probably the biggest call out with this shoe. I mean, DNA Loft has been a great little asset, and they've made a couple of minor adjustments with the execution of DNA Loft in the sense that they made it marginally softer from its previous version. So that first step in, you get a bit more comfort. However, when you're starting to put the miles in out on the road, getting a little bit more protection underneath the body on that pretty generous 10mm offset, it's been hard to sort of go past this shoe as a really honest, versatile shoe for a lot of mileage runners out there. The other thing which I like to say with pretty much every Brooks shoe I review, I can't remember the last time they didn't get this heel collar right. I mean, they are absolutely nailing that fit and feel on the foot. That first step in, the perfect amount of foam at the back so you don't feel like your foot's being suffocated. Or the other extreme is where you feel like you're lacking some support and integrity. Internal heel counter, nice amount of memory foam, and the materials they use are very much premium. The other thing too, which I like about this shoe, they made it a little bit more, of a lockdown through the saddle area of your arch. So the gusseted tongue works really well, sits on top of your navicular, and you get the perfect amount of support up top, which is fantastic. The other shoe which I'm going to talk about right now is one that I think's probably had the biggest and best update from all the shoes below us. Now, it's a bit controversial because my last shoe I really like, but I hold in my hand here the Mizuno Wave Rider 25. Now, with all due respect to Mizuno, they are an extremely conservative brand, and I say that with all due respect because sometimes when a brand knows what they are and who they are talking to, they make minor adjustments from one year to the next. Now, we're not going to rewind the clock and talk about the Mizuno Wave Rider 17 because for those of you that know what I'm talking about, you've probably spilt your hot coffee on your lap already. That shoe was a miss. It was an absolute miss, and Mizuno even admitted it. They went too light, too minimalistic, and they lost the integrity of what this shoe is all about. Fast forward a few years now to what I hold in my hand here. The Rider 25 is exactly what I would expect from this shoe. So in terms of the engineering breakdown, you've got a combination of Mizuno Energy Foam in conjunction with that TPU wave plate underneath the foot. And being a slightly lighter shoe, I mean, we're talking shoes here that, well, they've got the Wave Sky, which sits above it, but this shoe is marginally lighter, so again, very versatile. You can use it for your quicker runs, you can use it for your shorter runs, your progressive runs, and it does protect the body quite well. Midsole as well, 36 heel and a 24 forefoot, so out of the whole range we're talking about underneath me here, this one here is at a 12mm offset, which is pretty generous. Now, 10 years ago, 12mm was considered perfectly normal. In today's space, 12mm is kind of the minority. Not a lot of shoes sit above 10mm. I mean, majority of them now are down in those single figures. So for Mizuno to stick to it and keep running that 12mm offset, again, for them, it's working. Who knows if it's going to stay for Wave Rider 26 and beyond. But with this shoe, it does work incredibly well. The other thing too I'd like to call out is Mizuno have always been renowned for getting heel counters right. So I said the same thing with the Brooks Glycerin a minute ago. However, there is a little bit more support around this heel counter in the Rider 25 in the terms that the plastic does cover a little bit more area around your calcaneus. And again, pretty much nailed the amount of foam at the back through here, so you get a really good step-in feel. And in regards to the upper and the breathability, again, I can't fault this shoe. I think it has been an absolute gem for this season. I mean, again, when a brand gets it right, they nailed it with the Wave Rider 25, which is fantastic. And the other probably biggest update was the fact when they went from 23 to 24, they went full ground contact, and the same thing goes here for 25. You can see there is rubber, which is on offer the whole way through the gate cycle. Obviously some cutaways with the vertical flex groove, decoupled flex groove, and those horizontal flex grooves to provide a little bit more of a seamless toe off with regards to this shoe. Last but not least, my favourite out of the top 5. Now, I don't want you at home to take my word because everyone is uniquely different when it comes to running, and you got to keep that in mind. But the shoe that I keep coming back to pretty much since the Clifton 6 has been the Hoka Clifton franchise. Again, all due respect to Hoka, they had a couple of misses there with the 3 and the 4. 5 was starting to get back on to where they should be, but 6, 7, and now the 8, they have absolutely nailed this shoe. The biggest change with Clifton 8 from Clifton 7 and Clifton 6 was the configuration of the midsole and the outsole. You can see through here where the red outsole sits and basically underneath the blue midsole. That real change in the flex screws through the forefoot. So what they're essentially trying to do, they're trying to provide a more consistent wear underneath the shoe itself. So again, probably a slight concern potentially, or a little bit of a bugbear with mine was the Cliftons did wear out pretty quickly, and the outsole starts to wear down to the midsole a little bit earlier than what I would personally like. So again, I'm good 2/3 way through my life with my Clifton 8s and really enjoying them. The flex grooves, the consistency of roll and feel has been there from the first kilometre right through to where it sits right now, about 250 k's in. The other thing too with the Cliffy series, they're renowned for that rocker sole through the forefoot. It is a slightly earlier meta rocker, not like your Bondi's, which has that that rocker sits more towards the metatarsal region. This is pitched back a little bit further. So again, it's not too intrusive on that forefoot. It doesn't feel that unfamiliar if you're coming from any of the other shoes below me. So again, it's just a really effortless, really smooth, really seamless ride underneath the body. I've used this shoe from everything from my easy runs right through to my quicker tempo sessions if I want to feel a bit protected. And also when you get out the door and you start to feel pretty good and you want to decide there on the spot that you run a progressive run, Cliftons have been fantastic. Again, subtle change, that little tweak at the, I suppose, this heel counter region where you get a little push and pull away from the Achilles, which was evident in Clifton 7, and they've rolled it over to Clifton 8 as well. New successful engineering component. Love the heel counter, love the collar. This shoe here has been an absolute gem to run in as well over the last 6 months for myself and a lot of runners here that obviously work with us, and the customers come in and give us the feedback as well. Okay guys, in summary, obviously these 5 shoes are what I have found to be the easiest to fit downstairs on the shop floor. And as we touched on in the intro, a lot of it's to do with the versatility, their updates, essentially where they've come from their previous versions, and also the fact that they are available in widths. A big one for me is a good running shoe, be it neutral, stable neutral, and supportive. When brands believe in their engineering, they back it, they'll make it available in widths. So, again, touching on the fact that this is by no opinions, the absolute, this is my perspective, this is how I see the market over the last 6 to 12 months. If I have happened to miss a shoe out of this review that you firmly believe in, that you love, that I haven't talked about in this review, let us know in the comment section below. Because if you love it, there is nothing wrong with that. That is fantastic, and someone else out there will probably agree with you. Now, if you want to know a little bit more information about these shoes I have reviewed, I have done individual reviews on each and every one of them, where I've gone into the outsole, the midsole, and the upper in more detail, and the links to those videos are down below. And guys, until next time, stay safe, be kind to one another, and we will see you out on the road. Take care.